Welcome back to another episode of the Washington State Real Estate Investing Podcast, where today we dive deep into the strategies that make real estate investing in Washington a lucrative endeavor. Have you ever wondered how the right insurance could be a game changer for your investment? Or perhaps you're curious about how to kickstart your journey in real estate, investing with the right mindset and approach. Well, today, I'm thrilled to have Jason with us, a seasoned real estate investor and insurance expert from the Tri-Cities area. Jason brings a wealth of knowledge from his dual role, offering unique insight into protecting and growing your real estate portfolio. We'll explore Jason's personal journey from purchasing his first investment property to leveraging insurance as a strategic tool for risk management. Plus, we delve into the power of community and networking in the real estate investing world, highlighting Jason's role in expanding a local investor meetup group in the Tri-Cities area. Before we get to today's episode, though, a special thank you to our sponsor, Inspectify.com, for their continued support of the Washington State Real Estate Investing Podcast. Inspectify.com is your go-to platform for scheduling top-notch home inspections with ease, ensuring your investments are sound and secure. Inspections in 48 hours. Thanks again to Inspectify.com. Now, let's get you into this enlightening conversation with Jason, where his experience and strategies will inspire both new and seasoned investors alike. And with that, on with the show. All right, welcome back to the Washington State Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm excited today to be joined by Jason out of the Tri-Cities, who's a real estate investor and works in the insurance side of things as well. So we're going to have a great conversation today about his own portfolio and his stuff as an investor, and then also talk about the insurance side, because as investors, we know that there's always that side of it too. Jason, welcome to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into investing in real estate.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me, Jeff. Yeah. So I've been an active real estate investor since probably about 2015. Joined up a local real estate investor group that was like 5 people, literally the first meeting that we had, and got together and got a good relationship with the main guy that kind of coordinated putting that together. You know, did like everybody that usually goes to those, figure out what's going on with this whole real estate investing thing. What does that look like? And here we are, 10 years later almost now, and I'm one of the admins for that group for our local Tri-Cities Real Estate Investor Meetup group. So we try to meet once every 2 to 3 months, along with, some informal meetups and just do socials and stuff like that. But yeah, it was probably about 1.5 years after I joined and started doing that I purchased my first investment property. Awesome. Just a little single family, 2-bedroom, 1-bath off market that I'd been, like they tell you, just put in people's ears what you're looking for. Yeah. And I got a real estate buddy that he came to me and was like, hey, I've got a lady that's looking at offloading a handful of her single family rentals to upgrade to something multifamily. Brought it to me, and this is going to show you the market at that time. Ended up closing in August of 2016 on that for $99,000.
Wow.
A little 2-bedroom, 1-bath, about 750 square foot corner lot. So it was nice. So came with a tenant, and it was kind of messy, but the nice thing was that our mortgage was less than most people's car payment at the time. I think it was $480 a month for our mortgage or something crazy. So it was nuts.
That cash flow good for you right out of the gate?
That was the thing. I was like, this seems like a good one to get started in that. And so, we inherited some tenant. They were only in there for about 8 or 9 months before we got them out. And then we ended up doing a full rehab to it because it was really small, closed off, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So we busted out a wall, opened up the bathroom or opened up the kitchen and remodeled the bathroom and the kitchen and did new flooring throughout. So brand new, and got a tenant in there. But we quickly found out that location is super important in your rentals. Yeah. And so you're always going to be limited the type of tenant you're going to get where you're at, which some people are fine with that. It was a little more of a headache than I was looking at doing. So down the line, since then, we ended up selling that. And we closed on it exactly to the same date in 2021.
Oh, wow.
and sold it for $230. So we took
Wow.
the profits from that and just 1031 that into a duplex that we bought that same year.
So great. Start with 1031 into 2, and then you'll 1031 into 4, and you just grow that baby. That's great.
That's what the goals are.
How big is the real estate meetup group now? Like you said, it started with like 5.
Oh man,
pretty good size down there now.
Yeah, I mean, we probably have a couple thousand members online on the Facebook group, so it's big. We regularly, since this last year, we've been getting together some really good meetups, and we've had anywhere from 70 to 80 to our last one that we had. We did, a full dinner and a nice presentation, and we had probably 115 people show up to the one. So it was really big. There's a lot of people in the Tri-Cities that are eager to learn more on it. And we have a lot of really good local people to lean on that are knowledgeable and active in the business, which is a lot of my go-tos for that as well. So,
well, make sure you send me that link, and we'll make sure that gets in the show notes. If there's any investors in that Tri-Cities area that aren't part of that yet, I think that's really good. The connections with each other is where we go. I do want to dive in a little bit just around your dual role as an insurance agent and as a real estate investor. I think it's very unique, and I'm glad that we get this opportunity to talk with you. Yeah. And how has your experience on the investing side informed the way that you approach your insurance conversations with investors? And what are some of those kind of conversations looking like these days?
That's a good question, and it actually plays a really big role. I feel like that gives me kind of an advantage in that area from the insurance standpoint because I am an investor myself. So from that standpoint, when I'm explaining the whys, the whats, the hows, I'm coming from not only from the insurance, I'm the agent, I can tell you how and why you need this, but I know what, as an investor, they're looking for.
Right.
So there's certain things that you want to try to save on, but there's certain things that are worth maybe paying a little bit more for that proper coverage, because I've been doing this for 15 years now for insurance, and in insurance, it's always, I want to pay as little as possible, but I want to be taken care of for that really crappy day when that comes, right? So it's walking that fine line and that balance of what you're going to have should that happen. And I've had lots of, I do a lot of work with that group. A lot of people I work with insuring their investment properties, anywhere from single family to small multifamily. I have a bunch that do apartment complexes, commercial real estate, and everything in between on that. So being able to relate that between the investor and the insurance agent side of things, I feel like is nice to be able to explain this is why this is important or such like that. So
what are some of those things then as real estate investors that you think are things we really should be looking for in an insurance policy? Are there like things that you're like, this coverage, you found that this coverage is worth it? Like if you've, whether it's a flip or a long-term rental, what are some of the things that you feel that you try to help investors?
Right. The important thing is to understand exactly what you're getting covered, how. Right. Because investment property, so usually right out the gates, most of the time when you're talking to someone that's a real estate investor, they're going to have, I would say, at least a above average understanding on financials and things like that.
Right.
There are people that do real estate investment that don't know anything. So that's not to say a blanket statement, but most of the people at least have their ABCs lined up from a financial standpoint. The biggest thing for me is that I like to educate, and it's been really prevalent, especially the last 18 to 24 months, anybody that's investing in real estate, anybody that owns a home, anybody that drives a car knows insurance is bonkers right now.
Yeah.
Like ever since COVID, like I said, it's the wild, wild west. And so it's not what it used to be. And so I educate people on what some of those coverages are. But the biggest one is making sure that you understand that your insurance is not a maintenance plan. You don't call me because we had one of our Tri-Cities windstorm comes through and it blew 7 or 8 shingles off my roof. I'm like, sucks. Get someone over there, get them up there and fix that so it doesn't have more damage that happens. But that's not what you use your insurance for. Your insurance is like, hey, I had a tree in my yard. It blew onto the corner of my house and took out the roof. It broke a window, broke some of the framing. Like it did some damage and I can't have my tenants in there. Great. Let's work on that at that point. So that's a big one, is just understanding the how and when to use your insurance as much as what is covered. But then also I always remind people that people have this misconception. Your insurance is not doing the repairs for you. I always say your insurance, all they are is they're the checkbook.
Right.
They're going to come in and pay for said repairs to be. So everybody's going to have, their connections of I got my contractor, I've got my fix-it repair guy, I've got this, that, and the other. Great. You can use anybody you want. You can do it yourself if you're that person. we're going to just work alongside you from a claim standpoint to make sure that the proper coverages are there and taking place, and that people are getting paid to get those back to, so you can get back in there. So those are two areas that I say when you educate for that. When you go back to your original question from a coverage standpoint, the biggest thing that you can focus on is when you're dealing with investment properties, a lot of companies are going to differentiate between, and a lot of it can come down to the type of risk, but are you getting replacement value or are you getting actual cash value? And that's really big on properties, because if it's going to be actual cash value on certain things, and it may not be the property, but maybe it's got the roof. So the home has replacement costs, but you got like a 20-year-old roof that probably is going to need replaced sooner or later. So the insurance company is not going to say, hey, yeah, we'll just replace that roof, brand new roof, if something happens to it. It's going to be depreciated based on age, wear and tear, costs of things like that for that. So where you get that quote from that roofer that comes in and says, hey, it's going to cost you $13,000 to replace this roof, the insurance company, an insured might say, well, why is the insurance company only going to tell me they're going to pay me $3,500? Well, this is the part that got the damage, which is the part we're responsible for. Yes, the roofer's saying that they're not going to just come in and patch that roof because the whole thing needs replaced. But this is a good time to do that because you're getting some money from the insurance company. Let's get on there, replace that so this doesn't happen again for that. But no, you're not going to get the insurance company to come in and replace an entire roof because it didn't have, the whole roof didn't have damage. It's just old. It's time to step up and replace it.
Yeah. And I one of the things that we always look for, especially, and I know, and maybe you have some ideas around this too, is most of the houses and most of the duplexes that we have bought have been older. And so one of the first things that we usually look at is the sewer, and any kind of sewer backup, or, we've got old clay lines. I mean, I invest in Spokane, and we've got the old orange tubes.
Old Richland and Kennewick.
And so that's always something that we always think about when it comes to coverage, is just because that is one thing that, all you need is one time for that thing to back up into a basement with a tenant in it, and you're all messed up. So is there any things like that that you find, like this, based on ages of homes, that you kind of recommend?
So definitely when you're looking at getting a home covered, most any insurance company, they're going to look at certain parameters on, one, does it qualify? And then two, if it does qualify, what are some updates that have been done? And there's 4 significant areas that they want to see age of. Obviously, roofs one, plumbing, electrical, and then what's the other one? I want to forget. Plumbing. There's one other one. I forgot what the other one was. But there's 4 areas that they're going to want to know updates to. HVAC. So HVAC, HVAC. So have any of those been updated new or significantly in the last recent time? Because those are there, if you trace it back, are where you're most likely to incur a claim or a loss from if you're dealing with older stuff. So if you have an old roof, it's more likely you're going to have water leak in, which water is going to cause damage. If you got old plumbing, it's most likely you're going to have a pipe rupture or have a leak to it that's going to cause water. I mean, water's the biggest damage.
It's the worst.
Can do to anything. And it's not only, it's a mess to deal with. If you've ever had to deal with a home claim or have a water loss, it's just the cleanup and remediation, and then getting in there and the tear up and the dry up and then replacing, and it's
a nightmare.
So if you can do anything to prevent that, that's going to be important. That's why the insurance companies want to know these things. When has anything significantly been updated with any of those 4 areas? So those are big ones. But then back to your question on like the sewer, most of your standard property policies do not come built in with sewer backup sump pump coverage. That's usually an extra endorsement that you're adding. It's not maybe necessarily important for homes that are all above grade. Things like that. It's really vital to have if you've got below grade, so basements or split levels and things like that, because we all know water runs to the lowest point that it's going to go to. So if you do have something that fails or comes back out the sewer, then that's going to revert to that coverage, and it's going to go into the lowest place. That's where you walk into your basement and you've got, a couple inches of water, black water in there, and that's not fun to deal with. When you're dealing with those types of things, that coverage, when you're adding that endorsement, I always remind people, you as the landlord or property owner are responsible for that endorsement being included, are responsible for the damage to the house, the structure. So if you've got to replace flooring and sheetrock and trim and anything that's got damage from that, that's on you. it's obviously the tenant's responsibility from their renter's insurance if they had any personal property that is damaged from that. Also, if it's going to take 3, 4, 6 weeks to get that cleaned up and ready to go so the tenant can't live in there, you as a landlord, it's not your responsibility to cover if they've got to go somewhere else. And that's why I'm, as a landlord, luckily in insurance, I've always said insurance is super important. I require all my tenants to have that proof of insurance, add myself as an additional insured, so I'm notified if there's ever a cancellation or anything, because that's going to include that loss of use. So now that renter's insurance can come in to help your tenant to say, hey, I got to go stay at the Holiday Inn for that 4 or 5 weeks while this is cleaning up, that's going to cover the cost of them having to live there until it's back to where they can get back moved in.
So you require all your tenants to have tenant insurance.
Definitely. If they don't have something when they're coming in, obviously I have the ability to be able to say I can include it for you, so I can package that in there with as part of their rent. If they've got something set up or they want to go through wherever they got their auto insurance and put those together, great. I just make sure they get that quote or that coverage over to me, and I make sure I get added as an additional insured, because when you're added an additional insured, it extends to make sure if there's any liability claims that as a property owner, you can be included on that for their policy, and then you're notified of any cancellations or anything, so you can make sure you're not caught off guard with being like, oh yeah, my policy canceled 3 months ago or something like that.
Yeah. That's really good. I like that idea. I hadn't thought about adding yourself as on that policy so that you know if it does get canceled. I like that. That's a really good.
Then they're not setting something up and checking the box to get into the apartment or the unit, and then they cancel it because they don't want to pay
that expensive,
$14.
Right? Renter's insurance isn't.
Renter's insurance is maybe $15 to $20 a month.
Yeah. And I even like your idea of like wrapping it into, if I help you get the policy, or I can go get the policy on behalf of you and put my name on it, and wrapping that into the actual monthly rental. That's another. That's a
if I do that and I get it set up for a tenant, I'll just usually put a little buffer in there because I'm going to pay for it in the full year. So if it's ends up being $200 for the year for that renter's insurance, I'll just pay for that. That's up front, and then their rent's going to include whatever that is divided by 12. To make sure that's in there for that, and I don't have to worry about that. So
that's very cool. I love that. Well, you've talked about that the last couple, 24 months or so have just been the wild west, and we were talking about some of the unique aspects about being an investor right now with insurance, and we were talking about trying to get insurance on flips. Can you give any ideas or recommendations around if I'm trying to flip a house? Where do I go? Where do I start? How the heck do I get insurance on this thing?
It's a little more limited. That's a tough market to do. When you're insuring a flip, it's definitely different because any insurance company is going to consider a flip as a vacant property because there's not somebody living in there. And the biggest argument, people are like, yeah, but there's people there day to day, that are in there working, things like that. But the insurance company is looking at the risk of how's that being used. So if your short-term goal is you're buying a property to fix it up and flip it and sell it over that, 2-month to 4-month process, whatever that looks like, it's technically a vacant property. There's not someone that's living in there. Right. And so the cost of that is going to be more. I always am hesitant. I'll hear certain people that'll be like, oh, I know a guy and he hooks it up for me and he'll take care of it and cover it. And they cover it like it's going to be a rental and we're just doing some rehab work to it and stuff. I'm like, that's all fine and dandy. And you may get away with that. Great. Until claims day comes. Because I can 100% certainty assure you that it's going to be bad thing one happening, which is they're going to deny the claim. And you're going to be stuck with doing whatever kind of repairs now you've got to do. Or they'll pay it and good luck ever getting coverage again because it's just going to be canceled and then it's going to be flagged and you're not going to be able to get that set up anymore. So the cost difference, if you're going to look at a rental that, like for me, if I'm buying a house and I'm rehabbing it to rent it, depending on how long that rehab is going to take, I can insure that way and then get somebody in there and you're good. But if it's a longer rehab or more, tearing everything down inside to the studs and then replacing all of that, it's going to be some time to it, or your purpose is to flip it in the end. That is a specific policy setup type that you do have to get. And the options that are out there are far and few between these days, and the cost is going to be more, but you can know that when you're buying the property. So if you have a good relationship with your insurance guy and you say, hey, I've got this one, I'm under contract, what am I looking for? You can build that into your cost and your numbers and your breakdown, so you can factor that in. And most of the time with those, you just pay for like 6 months, split it up and do
Yeah.
a semi-annual. So pay for 6 months, and if you finish your flip and you sell it in 4, you'll get a prorated refund. If it takes you longer, then you just pay for that second 6 months and you'll get it back when you sell it at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And my problem was always remembering to go back to my insurance and say, oh, by the way, we finished rehabbing this. Can you take it off the vacant policy and actually put,
right.
I've had that happen twice where my insurance guys come back. He's like, what happened with this? Was it still vacant? I was like, oh no, it's not vacant anymore. There's actually tenants in it.
Right.
We got to move that over to a.
Yeah. Depending on the use of it, that's one thing that I like to do is I'll put in little notes. So if I'm buying, or if I've got a client that's doing some rehab work and I'll get an estimated time frame. They're like, it's probably going to be about 90 days turnaround. I was like, great. I'll put a reminder at like 65 and I'll check in with you and see how things are going. So.
Yeah, that's a great idea because I've forgotten at least twice. Where all of a sudden it comes up like, wait a minute,
one, you don't want to overpay for a policy. You don't want to overpay for a policy that's not set up right. But then you don't want to make sure you've got improper coverage because a vacant policy, flip policy, is going to be different than a landlord policy with them renting. So
such a thing. Yeah, for sure. Well, what's next for you in your own real estate investing journey? You've now you had a single family, you 1031 into a duplex. We were talking earlier before we started. You just bought your first, you think, a house that you're going to flip?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably about 90% sure I'm going to flip it unless the numbers look really good to keep it as a rental when we're done.
Yeah.
Might do that if we're in it cheap enough. But yeah, I got my first flip, so diving into that's exciting to get my feet wet in that and experience that to go. So that's cool. We do have a fourplex. I bought that smack dab in the middle of COVID.
Oh,
that was exciting. That one was, again, the biggest thing when we're having our meetups for the real estate investors is this is a people business. It's not a real estate business. It's people. Who do you know? Create those relationships. That's how you're going to find your deals and the people that you work with and do business with down the line. And that's how I found the fourplex is just somebody I'd gotten to be good buddies with through that time. I saw randomly that he posted on his Facebook story that he was at one. He did a little video. He's like, we got this property we're rehabbing. I immediately messaged and I was like, I know where that is. Are you there right now? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm going to come over. So I went over there and it was a fourplex that he bought that it had been vacant for a while. And I knew that he was buying it to flip it. He had already gotten 2 of the units rehabbed, got the tenants in those because he knew that it makes it easier to sell it with tenants in there. So you can purchase it with those rent rolls and everything like that for the income side of things. And he already had 2 lined up for the other ones, which they were maybe 30 days out from having that all done and them in there. And so, fast forward, ended up buying that. I still have it to this day. I'm always tempted every month on selling that because I've got so much equity in that right now.
And you're probably like, you bought it at that time, you probably have a loan that's like 3% or 3.5% or something.
Yeah. Oh man. Right. Well, so like, that's my other struggle is like, man, this thing is a cash cow. Cash flow is like crazy.
Yeah.
But the money I could use from that, I could get something bigger. So I'm like, I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm just good with it right now. And I'll look at other avenues or opportunities if they come up on
Well, and the nice thing is the equity you have in it isn't going to go away. Right. Like it's just,
and I can access it other ways too. If I needed to, I could still leverage the property's equity if I need to. So
you can HELOC it out, or there's all kinds of ways to get to that stuff. We've done the same thing. We've got a fourplex, it's doing very well. We've even got three of the units are long-term tenants, and then 1 unit is Airbnb-ing.
Oh wow, nice!
Our first little Airbnb test, and the Airbnb is making as much as full-time renters are, so we're good with that at the moment.
Awesome,
but it's the same thing. We've got so much equity in this thing. I'm just like, well, what are we going to do with it? But I mean, the thing is just, it's like it's a cash cow every month. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I might as well keep it. We're like 3.5% interest rate. I mean, it's just like you can't get that again.
No,
so it's tough to, it's tough. But
so the world we live in the property investment side of things is that when you're looking at them, I feel like, and that's where I'm at, like anything I'm looking at trying to do either creative finance, seller contract, things like that, because the property itself, I'd overpay for a property right now if you can get the debt on it, because the debt's where the value is right now. If you can get a property that someone's got in the 3s to 4s, shoot, even 5 on a multifamily, compared to what you can get now, like I said, I'll give you asking price or even above if I can somehow figure out a way to either carry a contract for you or get the debt that you've already got. because that's going to make it cash flow. Because that's the problem that I think why, unless you've got someone that's coming in that's a cash buyer, or they're doing a 1031 exchange and they have the money to come in for that right now, is your novice investor that has to come in with that 20 or 25% down. When they look at those numbers and where they're at with interest rates, rents maybe are low because that person's had that property for a while, it's not going to pencil out on paper
Exactly.
to cash flow. And so they're like frustrated from that kind of stuff. So sometimes you got to feel a little bit outside the box for those.
Yeah. And I agree. I think we are in this, there's a couple opportunities, and I agree with you, is to the creative financing side. There's so many. We're in the process of trying to, I mean, we've got this property that people have heard on the podcast, this one that we're trying to rent out in Spokane. And all of a sudden this opportunity comes up that the city is saying, hey, in Spokane, they've done away with basically any piece of property now can become multifamily. And so we're going to, take the house that we bought that was a duplex, turn it into a triplex. And then now we're thinking we can build a duplex on the back. Well, we don't have money to build a duplex on the back of the lot and basically turn this thing into a fiveplex. So now we are doing that. We're going out and we're just trying to how creative can we be in getting finances to make this work? Right. And so it's just, and again, it's just knowing people. Like I'm talking to, people I've dealt with in the past, and do you have an avenue? Do you know someone? And we have another call later this week with another bank that does construction loans. So they're like, yeah, we think we can figure out a way for you. And there's a way to do it. That's going to be, you have to know people, and you got to dig in. Right. But the thing I was thinking as we were talking, I mean, what a great place to be in real estate, though, that you're just like, oh, I've got all this equity in a house. It's cash flowing like crazy. And what a fun place to be, Where you're just like, what do I do with my money? Do I just let it sit there? Do I, if I can tap into it some way to continue to grow? It's just such a great place to be. And it's a fun place to be when it comes to just knowing that you're cash flowing well and you've got, equity building up, and it's sitting there and it constantly is building up. So it's a good place to be in.
I feel lucky too, because so I've got a pretty good big family. So my wife and I, we've been married for 20 some years now. We've got 4 girls. So I'm on the backside of the kids. So I've only got one left in school. She's a junior in high school this year. But the reason I got, and this kind of goes back to your very first question that you asked, how did you get into real estate or why? Well, we started our family young, obviously. So, we didn't have the ability to save money when we were younger. And I work in insurance, financial services, and I meet with people all day that they're in their 40s, 50s, shoot 60s, and they're trying to figure out when they can retire. And I'm like, you can't retire. You do not. You're going to retire on $1,100 a month, because that's what this equates to if you think that this is going to work. So I, look at our situation, and we were not able to invest in our early part of life, which is when you need to invest because you get the compound interest later. Right. And so I knew we were behind, and I've always been the outgoing, creative thinking, outside the box. Yeah, let's try this, whatever person. My wife's my happy balanced medium. She's the yin to my yang, and she's like, I feel safe. I want to see my money in a box that I can look at and touch, and I know it's there. So getting her into real estate was the key, and getting her to see the whys behind it, because she thought I was crazy. She's like, why in the world do we want to do that? And I said, we physically and mathematically cannot save enough money to retire how we want when we want. We need other income, and we can do that by leveraging money and getting investment properties. So I finally get that wheel turning a little bit, got her open to the idea, and man, I will tell you, getting that comfort level of where she was to agree to move forward on that first little single family rental that we got that was sketchy in a kind of neighborhood, and that was a step in the right direction, and kind of opened her eyes for that. But that's the biggest thing, whether you're doing it yourself or you've got you're married, you got a partner involved in that, you both have to have the same goals in line. And that was the key, is getting her to realize that, hey, retirement sounds great and all, but I don't want to work until I'm 75, and I don't want to, when we retire, be worried about where our money is going to come from. And the only way we're going to be able to get there is through producing these other income assets. So we don't really use any of our money. We're total 100% in acquisition mode right now. I'm 46 and she's a year younger than me. My goal is to have the properties that produce the income and put us in a place by the time I'm in my mid 50s to do that. So that's where I'm at right now. So I'm not worried about the income that's being produced from it. Everything that we've got right now is going to that next deal or where we're going to do. So like even from another niche that I got into for the first time is lending. So I took a bunch of, I do retirement planning and stuff. I'm not super excited by the market. It's boring to me.
Yeah.
So I took some old IRAs and one that I had currently, and I moved all that over to a self-directed IRA.
Very
so
cool.
I'm actually lending on notes out of my IRA to some fix and flippers and stuff like that. So I've got a couple deals out that are over 50 grand. I just had one that finished up that I'm ready to lend some more money out.
Yeah.
So I got another $55,000 that I'm ready to get set up. So that's another avenue that I just like. I like tangible. I like to be able to see that. That's more exciting and keeps me interested. And so that's
Very
just
cool.
another avenue. And kind of going back to what you had said of where do we get funding? That's a big one that people don't realize is moving, retirement assets don't have to be in stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Get it into a self-directed, and you can invest in businesses and real estate and lending on notes and stuff, and you can get hard assets that have that tried and true depreciation that you can get if that's what you're looking at doing. So that's another area you can go. And if you know people, you say, hey, they're like, hey, I've got a couple $100,000 in an old IRA that I don't even know what it's doing. Have those conversations, educate yourself on how self-directed IRAs and lending money out of those on notes and carrying contracts and stuff like that works. There's a lot of opportunity for that. So that's where 100% of my thought is right now. I'm talking with people and working on stuff like that.
I love that. And we sound like we're very much on the same journey. I'm 47. My wife and I are both 47, and we started investing in 2018, and we've been like nose to the grindstone. I mean, that's all we've done. Everything. Like we just took our first vacation in 8 years because that was our focus, right? Like we literally did. For our 25th wedding anniversary, we took our first vacation in 8th year because for the last 8 years, we went to the Maldives. I mean, if you're going to go.
Good.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to do it right.
But it's been 8 years of grinding it out to 20 doors, right?
Yeah.
But we are at a place now where we've got 20 doors. We can, if we needed to, we could retire tomorrow and be set, Yep. And it was a grind, but we were focused. We knew what we wanted to do. We knew this was our path to retirement. And now here we are. I mean, our goal is 32 doors. I mean, that was our goal when we started. We're like, when we get to 32 doors, that's it. I don't need hundreds.
That's your number that checks your boxes.
I
it allows you to do what you want.
32 doors. 32 doors and we're good to go.
I don't need to be the guy that owns the West Coast no.
I don't need that.
Enjoy life.
We don't need that. And so, it's just been, but to your point, right? Like especially as a couple, you can get your nose to the grindstone and you just start acquiring homes, 1031ing, and you build that sucker up. And next thing you know, you're looking around and saying, you know what, we're okay. We're not even 50 yet.
Right.
And we're okay. So it's just,
we instill that a lot in our daughters too. They've seen obviously what we're doing. And so they're totally on that too. So like I've got a daughter, she actually works with me in my business here, and we're actively looking for a property for her. And it's the 2 to 4 doors that she can still get the traditional financing in and get in there and house hack your way. Cause we're like, you're 23 years old.
House hacking. If I was 20 again, right? If you'd only have known then.
Okay, if anybody's listening to this or watching, if you haven't started your family yet, do not go buy your dream house, first house. Go suck it up until you're 25 to 30.
So true.
You could have 10 doors and you'll be a millionaire.
Exactly.
I assure you of that.
I know.
Mathematically will happen. So just suck it up. Nobody wants their dream home when they're that early anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh,
you think you do, but then you're going to move 3 more times anyway.
That's right, because you don't even know yet.
No, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Well, Jason, man, it's been fun chatting with you and learning about the insurance side of things and just talking about, the philosophies around real estate investing. It's such a great place to be, and all the work down there in the Tri-Cities. We've had a couple different people on from the Tri-Cities just talking about
I saw that. That's awesome.
Down there in the Tri-Cities. I mean, it's just a great area to invest, and I think people forget about it. There's a lot of really good things going for the Tri-Cities right now, and so it's always great to have you on and talk about the insurance thing. If people want to reach out to you about talking more about insurance and what they might want to do, or want to chat more about your about just investing strategy, where's a good place for them to reach out?
So my Facebook's the easiest way to get a hold of me. I've got a business page, but honestly, my personal Facebook page, I'm kind of the guy that has fun with it. So I'm if you follow me on my Facebook page, I'm always doing memes and reels and stuff, and I just take ones that I like and I tweak them to be insurance related. So
nice.
I just have fun with it.
Awesome.
I'm one of the weird people. Like, insurance is boring to 98% of the population. I'm weird. I'm in that 2% that I actually enjoy it and it's fun. So yeah, if you just reach out to me on Facebook, you can email me. It's jason.dufault@countryfinancial.com. I'm able to do business. Like, I can do business in quite a few. I primarily do most of my business. I'm licensed in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, in the Northwest. So if anybody that's listening to this and they're in that area, I can help from an insurance aspect on anything. Like I said, single family, multifamily, apartments, commercial space, anything that you've got. It's an area that I take good pride in. We do really well in, and I can probably at least give a second set of eyes on that type of stuff for that.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure there are links to your Facebook page and everything in the show notes as well, so people can just scroll down and click on that and
awesome.
Contact you. Well, thank you, my friend. Thanks for spending some time with me today. It's great to meet you and learn more about your journey and have some great conversations around insurance. So appreciate it.
For sure. Thanks. Appreciate it, Jeff.